Campbell. I'm the director of the Scenic Regional Library, and welcome to tonight's candidate forum for the Missouri House of Representatives District 61 race. And we are actually, while it is primary season, we're going to have the Democratic and Republican candidates here tonight. The forum is being broadcast live on our branch's Facebook page. We also will be placing a recording of the forum on our YouTube channel, so if you know of anyone you want to have watch it after the fact, it's on the library's YouTube channel. Also, we have the county's two newspapers here tonight. The Gascony County Republican and the Herman Advertiser Courier are both here reporting on the forum, so that's great. And we also, the recording is being done by Sarah O'Daniel, our marketing specialist. Thank you. And our candidates tonight are Representative Bruce Sassman, who's our incumbent, who's the Republican candidate. And then we have John Grady, who is Republican candidate also, a challenger. And then we have Stacey Bax, who is the Democratic challenger. Our moderators tonight are Megan Maurer, who is Scenic Regional Library's Assistant Director, right there. And Tiffany Richards, who is our Adult Programming Coordinator, right there. They will not stand up so we don't knock any cameras over. Our forum tonight will be approximately 60 minutes. Each candidate will be given 1 minute to provide opening remarks and another minute to provide closing remarks at the end. Our list of questions have all been submitted by the public online, and the candidates received the list of questions that we'll be asking 15 minutes prior to the forum. We're going to try to get through as many as we can. We might not get through all of them. We certainly won't get through all of them. As many as we can ask in an hour. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to each question, and there will be no rebuttal, so no arguing. Just answer the question, and then we'll move on to the next candidate. The first question we're going to ask Representative Sassman first, and then the other two candidates. And then the second question we'll ask who? Stacey Bax. And then the other two, and then we'll let it rotate around like that. So we'll say your name before we want you to answer. They'll say your name so we can keep it straight. The moderator who is not asking the question will serve as timekeeper. The timekeeper will show a yellow card when you have 30 seconds left to answer, and then a red card when your time's up. And we appreciate if everybody stays within the time allotted. Please silence your phones, and please no talking during the forum. Candidates, good luck. Thank you very much.
We will begin the forum with 1 minute introductions from each candidate, and we'll close the forum with 1 minute conclusions from each candidate. So we're going to start with Mr. Sassman. You have the floor for your introduction.
Sorry, I jumped ahead of you. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Representative Bruce Sassman. I live in southern Osage County. I've been in your service in the Missouri legislature for the last 6 years. Term limits allow a total of 8 years of service. This will be my last opportunity to represent you in the House of Representatives. It is a great honor. I grew up in Bland, Missouri, and continue to live on a farm at the edge of town. I'm retired from a 100-year-old family funeral business. I owned and operated a convenience store in Bland for 25 years. I continue to own First Street Storage in Bell and several residential and commercial rental properties. I have previously served as a mayor and councilman in my hometown. I have served on the Merrimack Regional Planning Commission, the Regional Development Commission, the Gascony County Industrial Development Authority. I'm a member of St. Alexander Catholic Church. Our Prairie Star Farm is a restored native landscape where we entertain and educate a variety of youth and adult groups.
Ms. Bax, you have the floor.
First, I want to thank First, I want to thank the library for hosting this event and for everyone for coming here tonight. My name is Stacey Bax, and I'm running for House District 61. I'm a mom, a wife who helps her husband run his family's third-generation timber business, and someone who has spent over 20 years advocating for individuals with disabilities, which began when my oldest son was diagnosed with autism and epilepsy at the age of 3. That advocacy expanded far beyond my own family. I served on our county's SB 40 board for almost a decade, and I helped design spaces that every person could feel included, like an all-inclusive playground. I'm not a career politician. I'm running because rural Missouri deserves a representative who fights for the people in this district, not corporations, not mega donors, and not a party line.
Mr. Grady, you have the floor.
Hi, my name's John Grady. I'm a transplant here. I moved out here in 2018. I want to thank everybody for throwing this on because this is great. This is what patriotism is, seeing everybody out here engaged. I love that. I've been married to my beautiful wife, Carol, over there in the back, the little redhead, for 30 years this year. We met each other in the Navy. We both served. She was a command ship after the USS Cole got bombed. She was commanding security. I served 2 tours over in Iraq, so I've learned how to work under austere conditions. I got out, I started working in the construction industry. I built a lot of this nation and Missouri. I've learned how to look at line items and see where they're at. Through that time in 2008, my son was diagnosed with brain tumors, and we've had to sit there and fight for him the whole way through, to include fighting advocacy-wise to the state when they denied him services of living on his own with supports, because it was a want and not a need, because he's 23 and every 23-year-old should be forced to live at home. Those are some of the reasons why I'm fighting, including being put out of business this year as a hemp farmer. Thank you.
All right, since we started with Mr. Sassman for our introductions, the first question will go to Ms. Bax. If approved by voters, Amendment 5 would phase out Missouri's individual income tax based on revenue growth while reducing certain property and local taxes. Missouri already faces a funding gap in the K-12 foundation formula. If the individual income tax is phased out, what specific plan would you support to ensure public schools remain fully funded? Please identify the revenue sources, spending priorities, or legislative actions you believe would be necessary.
This one is very important and personal to me. I've raised 3 children. As I mentioned, my son has autism. My younger 2 have dyslexia, so they benefited from the supports that public education provided them. I know without a doubt that they would not be as successful today if they did not have those supports. So ensuring that our public schools have the proper funding is extremely important to me. I think it's the best investment that we can make. If this would pass and I would be elected, I would be asked to be on the Appropriations Committee for Education, so I can be a part of that discussion to make sure that the funding is there that is needed. Because like I said, these are the first services that get cut, are the people that really need it. And I don't think that's okay.
Mr. Grady, you have the floor.
Okay, one of the things about A5, I'll go out right now and tell you I'm against it, but one of the things that's in there is public school funding is actually protected the way they do it. They say they're gonna reduce property taxes, but because public school funding is protected, they are not gonna reduce those property taxes. More than likely, they'll reduce their own sales taxes, so it's not gonna impact the schools. However, with that said, our local schools are suffering. The formula is outdated and needs to be addressed because we're spending too much money to DESE, which is supposed to be an oversight and standard setting agency. Instead, it's become a very bloated agency, and we need to redirect those funds back to local districts. And that way we actually encourage our teachers to come because we can pay them a better salary because we're one of the lowest paid teachers around, and we actually can focus on the programs that need funding instead of just looking at a budget line item, just cutting them instead of actually where the bloat really is.
Mr. Sassman, you have the floor.
The state portion of funding for schools will be a huge issue in future legislative sessions. How's that? From my perspective, the legislature is no longer focused on traditional public schools. The state revenues that were once dedicated to traditional public education are being divided out to experimental schools, charter schools, and educational scholarships. And by the way, educational scholarship programs is simply a backdoor approach to school choice. You may not know that the law requires that 25% of our general fund revenues go to education. Unfortunately, we're dividing the available funds into smaller pieces of the pie to serve special interests. There is an effort to rewrite the school funding formula, and that would have a huge impact on property taxes and the amount of funding going to our traditional public schools. Right now, we have to wait and see what new funding formula and the state budget for education will look like.
Thank you.
All right, so this question will be for you, Mr. Grady. Many Missouri seniors live on a fixed income and do not pay income tax. If Amendment 5 leads to expansion of sales tax and the use of tax while phasing out the state income tax, what steps would you support to ensure seniors are not disproportionately impacted by higher taxes on everyday goods and services?
If Amendment 5 passes, you need someone like me up there fighting for you. You need somebody to fight to ensure that you're not being taxed out of your home, not being taxed out of every single thing you purchase. The fact that we're taxing groceries still to this day in Missouri is an abhorrent thing that we have. You're taxed to eat, you're taxed to live, basically, in Missouri. We need to fix those, and that means fixing the government. They have not done strategic spending cuts on anything, and that's where we need to start hitting spending cuts in the government and actually get rid of that bloat we see so that money can be redirected instead of having to be re-raised, what they're doing. And so I make sure we can redirect that money first before we start raising taxes. So those cuts have to come first before we start looking at any avenue to raise any type of tax.
Mr. Sassman?
It'll be interesting. August 5th comes around, the end of this, and we learn what the outcome is going to be to Amendment 4, Amendment 5. If Amendment 5 passes, the legislature has to go to work and figure out some solutions. It is possible that the legislature can't find a fix. And if that doesn't happen in the first 5 years, then we go back to the way things were. I'm hopeful that the legislators will protect senior citizens. They'll protect those poorest in our community. What is it? State's motto. Show me. Let the welfare of the people be the supreme law. I really wish we could go back to that. Let the welfare of the people be the supreme law. I hope we can make this work. I hope we can find some solutions for the poor, some solutions for senior citizens, those people who can least afford taxes in the first place. But this is, I hate to say it this way, but this is really a crapshoot. We don't have a plan going into Amendment 5. We have to develop it. I wasn't asking for any comments.
Please keep your comments down during the
I wished, and I think that a lot of people feel the same way I do, I wish we had some solutions. I wish we had a plan going into Amendment 5. I still have a minute or two left, don't I? I anticipate some of these questions, and I made myself a few notes, and I think I have something on 5 that I want to read to you.
You're at time.
I'm out of time. I'll do better next time. Thank you.
Ms. Bax?
This is another example of why Amendment 5 is terrible. It hits the middle and lower income, people with disabilities, the elderly, people who are on fixed incomes the hardest. They don't have 5 years to wait until a legislator figures it out. A lot of the problem that's been happening is at the Capitol, they keep giving tax breaks to the wealthy instead of working for the people. So that is one of my biggest concerns in politics, and that needs to be taken out, is the money. But if I were to be elected, yes, I would fight with everything in me to make sure that these people who are living paycheck to paycheck don't have to continue to struggle because of bad policy being made in Jefferson City.
Our next question will start with Mr. Sassman. Amendment 3 on the November ballot addresses abortion, parental consent for minors, gender transition procedures for minors, and the state's role in regulating these issues. What is your position on Amendment 3, and how do you believe Missouri should approach reproductive health and related medical decisions?
Amendment 3 follows really the position of Missouri Right to Life. And I believe in right to life. I believe in there is a life in the unborn. I don't have a problem protecting the unborn. It's easy for me. I will say this though, I am sorry that we have to play this back and forth with the Missouri Constitution. I wish as legislators, and this isn't just about abortion, this is marijuana, this is a lot of issues. I wish as legislators we could address those issues in the statutes, we could amend them in statutes, they would be more fluid. This idea of amending a constitution doesn't set well with me. I honestly believe, and I'm guilty of it because I'm one of the legislators, but I wish we had a spine sometimes, and I wish we could stand up and make those statutory changes. Thank you.
Ms. Bax, the floor is yours.
First and foremost, Missourians voted on this in 2024, and it should have been respected. Every time they overturn the will of the voters, it costs taxpayers more money, more time, when they should be focusing on policies that actually help the people. Right now, gender-affirming surgery is already illegal in Missouri. That's a non-issue. As far as reproductive health care, I myself was raised Catholic. I completely understand and respect those strong views. However, over the years, I have listened to many women's stories who have faced horrible situations. And they deserve to have that. I mean, it saved their life. Nobody celebrates abortion. Nobody's pro-abortion. But at the end of the day, this decision needs to be made between a woman and her doctor. We can see in states like Texas, who have really strict abortion bans, their maternal mortality rate rose 33%, and that was up until they stopped tracking. So I'm sure it is much higher than that. When the mother dies, so does the child. So in my opinion, this actually costs more lives than it saves.
Mr. Grady, the floor is yours.
All right, well, I'm ready for the booze because I am strong pro-life. I testified for SJR 72, which is a personhood to establish personhood in the Constitution. I believe in the MIT studies that say at fertilization, that's when life starts. Now, my opponents right here both talked about the Constitution and changes, so I'm gonna address that real quick. The one didn't like the way they changed and all that stuff. I agree we need to raise the bar on that stuff for all constitutional changes. But I disagree with Ms. Bax here, who says that the voters decided and it should be done. If we do that, then that is tyranny by the ballot box, and I will not stand for tyranny by the ballot box. The voters should always have a chance to revisit every time. If the legislator or IP puts it back forward, the voters should always be allowed to revisit it. The moment you tell the voters they can't revisit an item is the moment you stop being a Republican.
So we'll start with Ms. Bax. What is your vision of how Missouri should approach future data center development, and what measures would you support to address concerns related to energy, water, infrastructure, environmental impacts, and local communities?
The way they have gone about these data centers is wrong. They had closed-door meetings. Elected officials have signed NDAs. The community had no input. There's no transparency. The environmental concerns are devastating. The water consumption, the water contamination. We can look at other communities in other states to see that their water is already contaminated, depleted. They're having to ship their water in. Honestly, if I'm elected, I will support a moratorium until there are real regulations that protect the community, transparency, accountability, and more importantly, to ensure that the community has a vote and a say in whether they want that in their backyard.
Mr. Grady, the floor is yours.
When I first decided to run, I was worried about hemp being put out of business, and I was like, thank God I don't have to worry about data centers. until I learned there was 2 going in up in Montgomery County, and I had to learn a little bit about data centers. So I started listening to the people over at Preserve Montgomery County, started talking to those, Harry Cope. I even talked to Ryan Poster, the current presiding commissioner, along with Doug Lensing, some of the other commissioners, to understand what's going on. And what I have right now is I have draft legislation written, ready to go, that even if I don't get elected, I'm gonna work with Trish Burns to make sure it gets filed, because what we need to do is we need guardrails. And these guys came in because legislators, like my opponent, voted for SB4 that opened up the greenway so they can come in, charge us to build out their electric infrastructure. So we gotta stop that. We have to put these guardrails in place to ensure that people are protected. Right now, the biggest problem in Montgomery County is the Amazon facility has a 1,500-foot well that they're gonna be pulling in and tapping from. So if you're in drought, those pivot head farmers are gonna be dried up in those bad times, and they don't have protection. So we need to protect against that. We need to protect against our agriculture. Missouri is an ag state. We need to make sure that stays intact. So we have to do these data centers responsibly. That means siting them on industrial areas, not our farmland. Our farmland is a national security asset, and the more we take away, the worse we are and the more vulnerable we become.
Mr. Saxman?
Thanks. I probably will take a detour here. I'm not a one-size-fits-all. We try to do that in Jeff City. We pass a law, we expect it to apply to everybody all the time in every situation, which is why I believe in my day, and some of you old enough to realize or remember when we had local control. And I believe in local control, and I think local communities should make the decision what works best for them. And I think the data centers is one of those situations. Now, I agree that the technology got ahead of us, and we weren't ready maybe in this legislative district, but we can be ready in other districts for people and communities and counties to take control of the situation, use that local control to their advantage, and do what works best for them and do what serves their district the best. Data centers might be great in some places, and they may be lousy in others, but let the local people decide, and I don't think Jeff City is a place to decide that. And I will say too, I know there was legislation proposed here tonight that would put guardrails. I chaired the committee meeting, and we had a long committee, and there were 2 of our representatives that great intellectuals that had a great outline for our guardrails for our data centers. I think they could apply locally as easily as they could apply across the board, across the state of Missouri. Thanks.
Mr. Grady, this question will come to you first. If your party's leadership supported legislation that you believed was not in the best interest of your district, how would you approach that vote? What factors would guide your decision?
That's a pretty easy one. I am the only candidate up here who has signed a pledge with the district saying that District 61 comes first over party, over leadership, over anybody. I refuse to take PAC money. I'm self-funding this on my own with some donations from friends and family. I am against them. PACs put my farm out of business. I've seen what they do. So the district comes first and foremost. We lost over 75 jobs this year when hemp was banned. So we can't let that happen to our district. We need to have growth and have jobs, and so that means we have to protect it. And you need somebody like me that's gonna be that watchdog to be out there and stand for the district, even if it means leadership's mad at me, somebody else is mad at me. If my district's happy, then I'm happy.
Mr. Sassman, the floor is yours.
Thanks. I may be the only one up here who's actually had to deal with that. I chaired the Committee on Conservation and Natural Resources. I have a passion for conservation and natural resources. I was chairman as a sophomore, which is unusual because sophomores generally don't get those positions. But I had the future speaker come to me and said, Bruce, I want you to vote this way on this bill. I said, I can't do it. And he said, I've never asked you for anything, but I'm asking you now, will you vote this way for this bill? I need your vote. I said, I can't do it. And I didn't do it. And the next year, I was no longer chairman of Conservation Natural Resources Committee. There are consequences to pay, but I'm willing to take those and accept those consequences on issues that really affect us and affect our district. Thanks.
Ms. Bax.
I also do not take any money from PAC. My campaign is completely grassroots, and this is an easy one for me because a representative do not represent the party line. I will not vote in any way that is going to harm the district. I think that is so, I don't know, it seems to me like it's a bizarre question to even ask, but I do understand because people do tend to do this. But my vote is not for sale. My vote belongs to the people in House District 61.
So this question's for you, Mr. Sassman. Do you support a school choice system that would allow families to direct their local property tax dollars they pay to the school of their choice rather than only using the current scholarship program? Why or why not?
Well, I guess I have to take another bump from the party because I think the Republican Party probably does support school choice. I'm not in that camp. I don't support school choice. I think communities work hard to build the schools, to build the infrastructure. They use their property taxes to support their district and their education for the kids. And again, I'm not for school choice. I don't think that people should just decide that they want to take money out of a district that's worked so hard to build a school and take their money someplace else and support a school system where they're getting the benefits from because of industry, they're getting the benefits of because of services that are built around a good education system. I think they're cheating the system. So I'm not in favor of school choice. That's my answer.
Ms. Bax.
I actually agree with my opponent. Because I do believe every kid, regardless of their zip code, deserves a good quality education. And school choice, vouchers, all of those take money out of those public schools. And it just harms the students, it harms the teachers, and I am not for it.
Mr. Grady.
I'll do a little something different here. We have school choice now. You have the choice to send your kids to private school. You have a choice to send your kids to public school. I went to both growing up. I did private school first, then public school. I'm a product of public school. With that said, the only time I see that there should be any type of voucher situation is a school is unaccredited. Like my old school district, Ferguson, Florissant, they've been unaccredited. It's better to send those learners out to where they can get that education and not harm those learners while we fix those problems at that district level. But that's the only time I would support any school choice. I wouldn't support a school choice because that means I'm subsidizing somebody else's choice. And I will not use taxpayer funds to do that. That's socialism, and I don't support socialism.
Okay, Ms. Bax, this question is coming to you first. Missouri lawmakers continue to debate whether video lottery terminals should be legalized and regulated. Do you support legalizing them? If so, should they be allowed in family-oriented businesses such as convenience stores, restaurants, and truck stops where children are frequently present? Why or why not?
No, I do not think that lottery terminals should be accessible where there are young children. We have casinos for that reason, so that people of age can go there. I think that that is a distraction, and I think that that just harms the people in our district. A lot of people on fixed incomes will use those as well. So I don't see any positive in that. So no, I would not support allowing them in public spaces.
Mr. Grady?
I'll tell you right now, I'm not a fan of them at all. I've gone in, I've seen them when they've been out there in the gas stations. I see who's using them. It's people that normally shouldn't be in there spending their money in them to begin with, and they're given a false sense of hope, and I think that's horrible. I think that the government even wanting to legalize them and go ahead and collect a tax on them is just another problem we have with the legislator being completely out of touch with what's going on and just looking at us as a revenue source instead of the citizens that have the power that vests them with the authority to tell us what to do. So I think those gaming things should not be legal, like we said. There are casinos out there we have. You can go to a casino, that's good. We don't need to have everything pilferated everywhere throughout the state.
Mr. Sassman, the floor is yours.
Thank you. It's already been said, I don't see any real advantage in them. I don't know why we have to have another venue for people to gamble away their resources. We already have the casinos, we already have institutions where you could go, they're well regulated. So the short answer to that question is, I don't think we need them. Thanks.
So this is going to go to you, Mr. Grady. Missouri continues to face a teacher shortage in many districts. What do you believe are the primary causes, and what specific policies would you support to recruit and retain qualified teachers?
This is a good one. A lot of friends of mine are teachers. My wife actually worked in education as a para before. So I've listened to these teachers and seen, one, everybody is underpaid. We know that. Missouri is one of the lowest paid around the country. That's how you attract people, by making the pay sitting there competitive with everybody else. We also need to make those environments better. Right now, they are administratively heavy. In Gasconade County, we have 2 districts. They each have a superintendent. They have assistant superintendents. And then if you go over into the Wentzville School District, it has more schools, more kids. They only have 1 superintendent and 2 assistants for that district. So we really need to take that environment that these teachers are working in and make it better, so it's not an administrative nightmare or mandates coming down from DESE telling the local what they have to do. So we really need to increase that environment, increase that pay for the teachers, and encourage them to come to them.
Mr. Sassman, the floor is yours.
Thank you. It's going to sound redundant from all of us up here. For teachers, it'd be great if we had more money. I don't know how we're going to do that, but it would be great if we did. My wife taught for 34, 35 years. I lived in education environment. My mom retired, my sister-in-law. I have a lifetime teaching certificate myself in biology, chemistry. And I love to teach, by the way. And I'd love to get back into the classroom. I'm going to go back to an idea that I had earlier about local control. I think the school boards could do a better job of managing the school districts than DESE. I think the school board members have their hands tied. They can't do all that they really need to make the education best for the kids and education best for teachers. So if I had my way, I wish there was less regulation from up top and there was more control at the local level. And maybe that would help. I don't have all the answers to that big problem. I wish we had more teachers. I'm not sure how we'll get them.
Ms. Bax?
I think the main issue is the funding. It's not there. This last legislative session, they refused to fund the $190 million formula foundation for the schools when they're already spread thin. That just hurts them even more. They're having to make very difficult decisions. I know our local school district alone, they've been having to make very hard decisions, cut back an hour. They've made financial decisions recently that's going to cause them to be in a deficit. The teachers, if you want to retain teachers, you have to pay them a competitive and livable wage. It's simple as that. My other concern, I just want to mention, if this Amendment 5 passes, Missouri Budget Project predicts that House District 61 public schools altogether will lose over $7 million when they're already stretched thin. So, another reason why I completely oppose Amendment 5. But in my opinion, that's the only way you're going to keep teachers here, is giving them the competitive wage.
Mr. Sassman, this question will start with you.
Missouri assessors are increasingly subject to state oversight through sales ratio studies, and state tax commission's authority over property valuations. Do you believe property assessments and valuation decisions should remain primarily under local control, or should the state tax commission continue to have the authority to require valuation changes? If elected, would you support legislation to modify the state tax commission's authority? Why or why not?
Big question. I'm gonna repeat part of it because it goes back to what I've been saying all along. And part of the question says, do you believe property assessment and valuation decisions should remain primarily under local control? Anybody want to guess where I stand on that issue? I really would like to see our local governments, our local school systems control their own destiny. I'm not for giving more authority to the state tax commission. Thanks.
Ms. Bax?
I would actually have to see the plan before I would promise anything. I'm a candidate that does not like to promise things if I don't have the actual numbers in front of me. One thing that I am concerned about, because I completely get it, nobody likes paying property tax. But the reality is it funds a lot of critical services. Our roads, public education, fire department, local police department, and any plan that would lower property tax, it would be important for me to ensure that those departments are not being underfunded or cut due to that, because we do need all of those services in our community as well.
Mr. Grady?
The tax commission is an appointed committee, not responsible to the citizens of the state. That is reprehensible. So that's one of the things I want to try and change. I don't know if I'll be able to do that because that's a lot of pushback on that one, but that is something we have to change because local control is tantamount because, like we heard, all this money goes to our local projects, our police, our firefighters, our school systems. We have to manage that better, but the way the formulas are written with the state having their purview and everything on it, we end up playing budget games for the districts and everybody else on how they hit their funding mechanisms instead of actually getting real valuations on these properties and getting protections for our seniors in place without having a burden on the schools or the public utilities that we utilize like law enforcement and fire protection. So we need to sit there and really put that tax commission almost into its place and really have one that's been with some oversight from legislators that play more of a part into that oversight of the tax commission than currently goes now. It's mainly overseen by the governor.
Ms. Bax, this one goes to you. What role, if any, should the state play in supporting the continued development of the Rock Island Trail? If elected, what would you do to help expand, maintain, or promote the trail within your district and across Missouri?
I'm not for or against it. I would like to see the numbers and how it would impact the community, how it's going to impact the farmers. I think one of my biggest concerns is we already have a budget crisis, and we're already taking money out of our public educations and things like vital programs that people depend on. And if there's not money there for that, I think we have a bigger priority in addressing these other issues to make sure that people can afford to live and have health insurance and have good, solid education before we consider looking at spending money on a trail.
Mr. Grady?
Right now, there's been several lawsuits on this trail. 73 of them have been resolved. 17 are still open litigation with property owners whose rights have been transgressed on. And they were given property by the railroads way back in deeds that were found in the archives. So these guys need to be made right first before we can move forward on the trail. It would be nice to have, it's a strategic asset. When Reagan introduced the trail system, it was to keep our rail beds intact and be able to quickly do them again. So it is a nice to have, but we have so many other things in our priority. We've grown the budget since 2020 from $29 billion to $50.7 billion. And while we've grown it, We've cut most of the programs out there, so how are we gonna come up money for the Rock Island when we're cutting programs out there for people and growing the budget? I'm a business owner, and it's a bad ROI we've been getting from the General Assembly lately.
Mr. Sassman?
I was hoping somebody would ask this question tonight. I did make a few notes, and I'm gonna kind of read from my notes. The Rock Island Railroad was a gift to Missouri by Ameren in December of in 2021. Except for funding to build fences, no state money has been appropriated to build any portion of the trail. However, the trail is being built with local funds, donations, and federal grants. One of the hang-ups was a compensation to the adjacent landowners for the taking of their land. As of today, most have been paid by the federal government. Unless we have a government shutdown or another COVID epidemic, the federal claims court has plans to pay the remaining landowners in November of this year. Once all the landowners have been paid, the most significant obstacle in the way will be finding the funding to pay for the development of the trail. Well, part of that question here, it says, if elected, what would you do to help expand, maintain, and promote the trail? And I've already started a process, working on a piece of legislation with MoDOT that might help. There are federal TAP grants and RTP grants, federal TAP grants, Transportation Alternative Program. There are funds that go through MoDOT program. The federal grants, however, require a cash match. Most of the small communities along the Rock Island Trail don't have the extra cash just lying around. So here's the idea. State funds can be used for the federal match. 20%, 30 seconds, 20% in Missouri dollars could get us 80% in federal dollars. I think that's a good trade. Creating a funding mechanism in the state would help the small towns along the trail and attract new money, interest, entertainment, recreation to the state of Missouri. I believe building the Rock Island Trail is good rural economic development. I would need the support of the local communities and counties along the way. Go ahead and raise a card for the team. Thank you very much.
Mr. Grady, this question is to you. Currently, citizen-initiated constitutional amendments in Missouri are approved by a simple statewide majority of voters. Amendment 4 would require a majority vote in each of Missouri's 8 congressional districts. What do you believe are the advantages and disadvantages of this change, and why?
Okay, I'll be first out here saying I'm against Amendment 4. Now, I think the Constitution is too easy to change, and I do believe we need to raise the bar. I believe for all constitutional changes, we have a simple majority in 6 of 8 districts. That mirrors kind of what we have nationally for the Constitution changing, even though it's citizen initiative petitions, we talk about inclusive in here. That would be what we're looking for. That's how we operate in a republic. What Amendment 4 looks is it silences one route. It silences the citizens' route when it leaves the legislator open to do as they wish, simple majority. Now, if the legislator had not rejected the bill that would put them to the same measures that they're putting the citizens to, I would have been for it. But they rejected and said, rules for thee and not for me. And I find grave umbrage to that.
Mr. Sassman?
Thanks. I did expect this one, and so I made a few notes. I could argue for and against Amendment 4, and personally I've been back and forth on the issue. The Missouri Right to Life is in favor of 4. They have the reasons. The Missouri Farm Bureau is in favor of Amendment 4, and they also have the reasons, but it's interesting that the Right to Life reasons and the Farm Bureau are not the same. I know there are others in favor of restricting the initiative petition process, and I agree it's become too easy to amend the Missouri Constitution. The Constitution should be a sacred document free from outside influences. The question is, how do we frame constitutional language that gives the people the right and authority to control their own destiny? I've been in the legislature for 6 years, and the discussions and debates about initiative petitions have been going on long before I was elected. While the Farm Bureau and Right to Life are in favor of 4, there are other folks against it. I would suggest that you look at last week's local paper and read the guest commentary from Ron Calzone. It's the best argument I've seen for voting no. As a state legislature, I'm in a unique situation compared to the other candidates. I represent people on both sides of this issue. And while we make decisions in the legislature regarding state statutes, we do not have the authority to change the Constitution. Only the citizen voters can do that. I'm not going to tell you how to vote, but maybe I can offer you a little clarity. If you vote no, the legislators will likely go back to the Capitol and continue their decades-long discussion about the best way to reform the initiative petition process. In the meantime, the Missouri Constitution will remain at the same level of vulnerability. If you vote yes, an initiative petition process would no longer be a viable option for citizens who want to have a voice in government. I'm anxious to know what the voters decide.
Well, I don't know if anybody has ever collected signatures to try to put a ballot on, or measure on the ballot. It is not an easy feat. You already have to have a percentage of signatures in each 8 congressional districts just to get it on the ballot. So it's not as simple as what they're making it sound like. So this will make it to where all 8 congressional districts have to have a majority passed. Only one district can veto what the rest of Missourians want. That's about 5% of Missourians can override what the rest of Missourians want. I think that's wrong. As for what corporations or businesses want, I don't care what they want. The government works for the people, or it should, not for corporations and businesses. To me, this is kind of like a football game. Majority wins. That's how it works. You know, we don't say, well, you lose because not every single one of your teammates scored a point. This is ridiculous. And again, I have an issue, like he mentioned, that this only ties the hands of the citizens, not the legislators. And, you know, we have passed things like expanded Medicaid, paid sick leave through the initiative petition, and I think that it needs to be respected.
This is going to you, Mr. Saxman. Many communities in our region face population stagnation or decline. What policies would you support to attract new residents and retain young people?
Another one I anticipated. In the past few years, Missouri's population has grown at a rate of 1.5% per year, a much slower rate of growth than the national average, which is 2.6%. Author Tevin Pettinger writes about the advantages of population growth. More people tend to lead to greater human capital, which in the past has led to increased cutting-edge discoveries. Population growth also leads to higher economic growth, with more people producing more goods and services. Other advantages outlined by Pettinger include economies of scale, specialization, and efficiencies. I speak about population growth because it reflects the economic health of our state. Compared to other states, our growth rate in Missouri is falling further behind every year. We lag behind in the number of new industries, availability of labor, and economic production. It is for that reason the Missouri Chamber of Commerce and the Department of Economic Development work hard to attract and retain businesses and industry. While population growth is triggered by jobs, business, and industry, there is more to it than that. Folks care about the cost of living and the taxes they pay. They care about the moral character of the community, the education of the kids. They care about recreation and entertainment opportunities. People need places to live, but places to work, places to play, and places to pray. Growing the state is a comprehensive endeavor. It's not one silver bullet to grow the state. We have to do it all. Every committee and every piece of legislation is important. Now, there are some folks who would be happy to stop the clock and keep everything just the way it is, but it doesn't work that way, and we need to be smart about population and economic growth.
Ms. Bax.
I think we can look at things like increasing trade school opportunities for farmers, but I think one of the biggest things is trying to keep our people in the community, give people a reason to stay. That starts with good, solid public education, accessible healthcare in our rural areas, and infrastructure that would encourage businesses to stay here. So that's how I feel like we would grow the economy, is just give people a reason to stay.
one of the easiest ways we grow the economy is through ownership. The more small businesses we have, we grow the economy because those small businesses reinvest 67% of their income back into those communities. When we have communities that are strong and stable, we have communities that grow because people want to go there. And I agree, going into the schools, we need to bring in trade programs into the schools. I used to write textbooks for the United Brotherhood of Carpenters. So we bring their school system in and start helping and offset our teachers. So we have people that go, the rural areas are now where the trades are going to be. They're going to learn their ag. They're going to learn the farming. They may not have to go to college. They can get a great education in these schools, in these communities where there's so much ownership around. Everybody has pride in what they have. Because when you do have ownership, you have people that sit there and take care of what they own. They push forward. And that's where we have to make these incubators out there for these small businesses and take care of our citizens. Right now, we're giving trillion-dollar companies 75% tax abatements up in Montgomery County instead of taking care of the citizens. We need to redirect that way we think in the legislature up in Missouri. Right now, we forget it's we the people that they work for, not we the corporations.
This next question will go to you, Ms. Bax. This will be our final question. Local elected officials are often the first to see the real-world impacts of state legislation on taxpayers and public services. If elected, how do you plan to build working relationships with local elected officials, including assessors, commissioners, collectors, clerks, and other county officials, to ensure you fully understand the local impacts of legislation before casting your vote?
I've actually been doing this for over 20 years. I've been an advocate, as I mentioned, for kids with disabilities, and I have worked with numerous families in the community to help them navigate complex systems like Medicaid, Social Security, IEPs, and I never once asked a person what party they were with, because I don't believe in that. I believe in just helping people. My party affiliation is very little to do with who I am as a person. I will work with anybody, regardless of party, to make sure that we solve the problems that this district is facing. That's always been my motto. You focus on the solution, you find the problem, you work with whoever you have to get the job done. And I will continue to do that if I'm elected.
Mr. Grady?
It comes from not just talking with all these elected officials out there, with your mayors, your commissioners, and law enforcement, but actually listen to what they have to say. I've listened, and we have different stories from different regions within the district, where Montgomery County has different needs for their law enforcement officers than we do here in Gasconade County. They need more equipment where they have staffing covered, but down here we have staffing issues. So we need to look at those issues and where on the state level we can come in and play and help those. And that's listening to those. The mayor of Bland was talking to me about how her town is stagnated because they have all these buildings open, but nobody's coming in and leasing them out and renting them and getting small businesses going. It's just not there. There's no incubator to get those going. So we really need to get that local economy the way we used to be. We were a big economy before these big corporations started coming in and getting all the benefits. We need to go back and bring Missouri back to being that show me state and show what we can do when we have these economies. I worked for a company before called McCarthy Building Companies. They are employee-owned, 100% employee-owned construction firm, and they are in the top 20 general contractors in the United States. It can be done, and it can be done well, and we have more companies like that. We grow them, and we grow our economy as we move.
Mr. Sassman?
Thanks. And are we on question 13?
Yes, sir.
And part of the question is, if elected, how do you plan to build working relationships with local county officials? I'm not sure we got off track there. In District 61, I have 4 counties. We have 4 counties. That's 4 county commissions, 4 sets of county officers. We have 9 public school districts. We have 11 parochial schools. It's tough to keep up. I can tell you, when I was first elected, it wasn't District 61, it was District 62. I had 7 counties, that's just 7 county commissioners, 7 groups of county commissioners, county elected officials. it's tough to keep up with him. And as the district lines change, we have to learn how to get along with new people. I will say for the next person who is elected, not me, but if either of these two would be elected, they'll have to face another redistricting, and their district will change or may change to a different part of the county, state. Thanks everybody for coming tonight. It was great fun. I didn't get a standing ovation. I got a few applause. It was great fun. Thanks.
You each shall have 1 minute to do a closing, and keeping with the rotation, Mr. Grady, you're up first.
A simple question you have to ask yourself when it comes to the vote this August 4th. Do you trust the status quo that's been doing to keep on looking out for you, because that's what you get from Mr. Sattler? Do you trust somebody, or do you trust somebody that's gonna throw something different, somebody that's not a politician, somebody that's, thanks to Mr. Sassman, learned he made an error on his reporting at the ethics committee, so you gotta fix those things, because I'm not a politician. I said I'm only gonna serve 2 terms if elected. That's what I promised to do to you. I promised to be as honest and open as possible to you. I will work with making sure you are aware of what's going on and putting out as many platforms as possible so we have the most informed electorate in the district. Thank you.
Mr. Sassman, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. If you've been watching my work in the legislature, you know I'm focused on the work that makes our lives better. In 2025, out of 163 members of the House, only 2 legislators passed more legislation than I did. Every day is a learning experience in the legislature. I've served on the Conservation and Natural Resources Committee, the Financial Institutions, Higher Education and Workforce Development, the Joint Committee on Rural Economic Development, Corrections and Public Institutions, Special Committee on Small Business, and the Special Committee on Tourism. I know how the system works, and I have a great relationship with the incoming Speaker of the House and the House leadership team. Thanks for giving me the chance to be your public service. I appreciate your continued support on August 4th and November the 3rd. Thanks again for coming tonight and participating in this exercise in democracy. Thank you.
Ms. Bax?
Tonight you've heard where I stand. I won't always promise to have a perfect answer, but I will always be honest with you, and that's a promise I intend to keep. I'm not running to climb a political ladder. I'm running because I've spent my entire adult life showing up for people who needed someone in their corner, and I'm ready to do that in Jefferson City. Rural Missouri deserves a representative who understands what your life actually looks like, who will fight to fully fund our public schools, protect our rural health care, and make sure that when billion-dollar corporations come into our communities, the people who actually live here have a voice in that decision. Every vote I cast will come down to one question. Does this help the people who need it, or does it help the people who already have more than they'll ever spend in their lifetime? And I'd be honored to have your vote. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. Let's give our candidates another round of applause. As you know, this is the primaries coming up, but when the general election comes around, please remind all your neighbors and friends that we have this on YouTube. They want to watch Representative Satzman or Mr. Grady versus Ms. Bax. So we'll have that up all through the entire fall up until the November election. So please let everyone know they can come and watch and hear what the candidates have to say up until the November election. Thank you.